What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Be the Trader. Today, I have a very, very special guest, someone that I look up to, someone that I highly respect, and really, his DVD when he released that really inspired me to be a short seller, which is awesome. It's so great to have him on the show today. I'm so excited, and today I have Tim Grittani with me. Tim, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alex. I'm excited to be on.
Hey, man, pleasure's all mine for real. So I appreciate you being here. If anything, I know a lot of people are probably like, "Where the hell you been?" So let's start. Let's start there. Where have you been? So what's been going on?
So I moved down to Puerto Rico at the end of 2016 and was doing the whole Act 22 for taxes thing, which, it's cool, but also just a beautiful island. We were down here vacationing back in 2015 and that's what sold it really. I pictured Puerto Rico and I was like, oh, it's a beach.
Yeah.
And then it's like, nope, it's mountains, it's rainforest, it's waterfalls. And and then you think rainforest and you think, oh, hot, muggy, buggy. And no, the rainforest is cool, breezy, beautiful. So down here, it was it was never hard to find something to do. So we came on down, just we're absolutely loving it. And then Hurricane Maria. And we had bought a condo down here. And that turned out to be a bit of a mistake because we got caught in just endless condo HOA BS where, we had our master bedroom window blowing by the frame. So we took a ton of water, had a lot of mold, and basically got stuck in this eternal, sit back and wait process, just to even have the window replaced. And that was the limiting factor. We couldn't proceed with a bunch of our cleanup until we had a window put in.
Yeah.
And we got our window put in October 2019. So over 2 years later, we get our window. So we just moved back into our place on New Year's Day. But, back when the hurricane happened, we had no idea this was all going to take so long. So we, we tried to wait it out and travel. We, really, that's really what we did for quite a while. And the message was always, just a few more months. And it just kept dragging on. So I wound up trading on a laptop for 2 years. And when you're 2 years on a laptop, there's very limited screen space. And I didn't get any of those screen extenders. So I just cut out chat rooms and, I focused on the 3 charts I had on my screen and that was it, And,
Yep.
Also, I have to mention too, I have a 10-month-old son now. So becoming
awesome.
a dad, incredibly fun, incredibly exciting. But that is also time consuming. So life has changed quite a bit. But now that I'm back in Puerto Rico, we're getting in a routine. He's growing up a little bit. I've been popping back into chats here and there, which has been fun to be back in the community again and just have screen space again. Gosh, it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so I'm curious. So since it's been really 2 years since you've really been active back into the community, really, at the end of the day. So what have you, just curious on top of mind here, with the market sentiment, how things have been, are you different now? Are you a different trader than what you were in terms of setups and how you normally trade?
Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I was definitely working hard on trying to get better at fundamentals. That was a big part of it because, I've been trading the listed stocks. I'd come from, the OTC world where it was just, it's all trash and that's all you need to know. Just trade, trade support, resistance, and volume and you're good. And just know that you're holding a grenade that could blow up any minute. So with NASDAQ, I tried to bring in that approach and I just wasn't seeing the whole picture. I'd be buying a breakout, not realizing that there was, a massive ATM or overhead warrants or, just something fundamentally dilutive that could really affect how the stock was going to move. So I started really working towards that around the time I moved down to Puerto Rico and just continued with that, during the time I was on the laptop and just kind of bouncing around. But lately with market sentiment and, basically the only stuff that's been going insane is all these coronavirus stocks. The kind of volume these things are trading, it's almost back to that OTC style trading where, you'll see a company do an offering and, it might head higher that day. I think Kodak
oh my God,
day. It was just wild. So it's almost back a little bit to the, fundamentals don't matter as much as you usually see because the volume is just overwhelming all this dilutive stuff. And so it's been a little bit more of classic, just technical trading for me the last few months.
Everything seems like everything's really trading 100. I feel like everything's trading 100 million, 50 million plus volume. Everything. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. It's a different world right now. And I guess so with the fundamental side, when you start studying that, I remember you bringing that up a long time ago. So what have you found for you? Like, do you still see yourself as more technical based and then a little fundamental, or kind of half and half now? Where are you at?
I still think technicals matter more, just because, I mean, you look at some of these most ridiculous squeezes we've seen, and it's been situations where, people will say, oh, fundamentally, this is junk. This company loses money every quarter, like whatever. But as long as the stock is on the front side of the move and you've got shorts piling in, like we see some of the most ridiculous squeezes like that.
Yeah.
So I really still respect technicals first and foremost, but the fundamentals help add conviction to the trade for me when the time is right. So when I think, okay, it's first red day or it's backside of the move or something like that, then I might get into a short with more of like 2 to 3 day patience. Whereas before I'd be just like trying to scalp it real quick, like I'd play like an overextended gap down in the past and cover like 30 minutes into the day, into the first morning flush I get. Whereas now I might be like, okay, I'm just going to swing this until it puts in a green day.
That makes sense. I mean, because I found myself when I started, I'm more technical based. And like I said, I've been following you for a long time in terms of like your DVD, right? That's what I mean by following you. Watch that thing probably. It's dumb how many times I've seen that DVD. It's dumb. But you know what? It's the best one out there in my opinion. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Oh, hats off to you. It's crazy. Anyway, what's crazy is I started doing fundamental studying too, like evolving to fundamental side. And have you found yourself or maybe you already went over this, maybe you've already done this part where you kind of went so lost in fundamentals to where you kind of were swayed a bias to short early and you kind of ignored the actual technicals at some point? Because I actually made that mistake. I don't know if you ran into that.
I haven't slipped into that too badly, and I think that's just because I took my punishment so badly before I started learning fundamentals, where I took the string of 6-figure losses over the course of a year. I just kind of got a flavor then of like what these listed stocks are capable of, and then I was super fortunate. This is I guess back before the Puerto Rico move, and I really started diving in, but I saw that KBIO move from the sidelines where it went from 2 to 20 after hours one day, and just wasted some people's accounts. And all the talk on Twitter, before that day was how bad fundamentally it is, how it should be down at 50 cents. And, I've had a lot of fear instilled in me of listed stocks, just seeing those black swan moves. So when it comes to fundamentals, if I get caught up on anything, I had a period where I really wanted to try to time offerings and like predict an offering might be coming.
Yeah. And
I've had times where I've gotten a little bit stubborn holding a short overnight because I'm like, oh, but what if they have an offering and I miss it? But I again, you get burned by that a couple of times. I think a couple I just totally ate it in interest fees, just the overnight fee of holding the stock night after night. And then the offering just never comes and never comes and never comes. So I think early in my journey, I went through that a bit and I was like, okay, that's dumb. Let's just stop trying to do that. Like, I'm not going to time offerings. Like every now and then, maybe I'll luck into one.
Speaking of that, because that happened recently, I'd say recently, like a month ago, 2 months ago, where there was constant offerings starting to happen again. And all like midday. Did you remember?
I feel like we're seeing a lot of midday ones.
Right. It's just like midday midday offering. And it's coming back even now right now. So it's wild, man. And I got lost in that too, man. Like I was shorting stocks and then holding it, looking for that offering because I was like, man, this is a new pattern. Like everyone's offering. And I would end up like, like you said, like cutting it for a smaller gain because, it went against me or something like that. So I definitely understand that and how you can get lost in that. I'm curious on what are you dealing with now? Like, you've been growing a lot. You've been sharing your journey, which I appreciate, your big losses, which you teaches a lot of people a lot of lessons. And where are you at now in terms of what are you trying to get better at? And what do you see as the most challenging thing for you right now?
Okay. Well, as far as what I'm trying to get better at right now, I would say buying. Just because I've been mainly a short seller for so long. The main patterns I could buy were multi-day breakouts and way back in the day, new promotion releases. Like that's what I was best at.
Yeah.
And when OTCs were hot, I guess I could time bounces pretty well based off of level 2, on the really big panics. But new promos are gone. You almost never see these big OTC panics anymore. So I'm basically a one-trick pony with multi-day breakouts. So I've been trying to work on some buying strategies, and the one that I'm going most into statistically and really trying to attack is just afternoon high day breaks. So it's not like a multi-day breakout, but it's just, the intraday high day break so after like a period of 45 minutes of consolidation or more. So I've been tracking that since October, like really intensely. I had a friend who helped me write some, like, I guess it'd be a study on Thinkorswim where, a scan and a study on Thinkorswim. So, I can scan based off of this thing he basically wrote for me, and it will list off all the stocks that broke past their highs a day after 45 minutes of consolidation afternoon. And then I can sort them by market cap, and I cut it off at $100 million market cap, and like what the market cap was at the time of breakout. So I'm really trying to take like a data-driven statistical approach to it, and find an edge. And that's been the main focus, and I'm starting to get there, I think.
And what do you mean? And then the other part of the question was challenge. Like, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge for you right now?
There's always that part of myself as a trader where I just want to go bigger and I want to keep on pushing size. But I think whenever you push size, it's natural to be uncomfortable with it. So, I've done it multiple times throughout my career where I'll try to take that next step forward, and then all of a sudden, the pattern that's always been familiar and easy becomes scary, because it's like, oh man, I'm going to lose how much if I have to cut this? And then I think the real challenge is not letting that slip into decision making, where, instead of being patient and just saying, okay, I'm willing to stop out if this doesn't work, all of a sudden I'm trying to read every tick and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look right, and I'll just cover it now for a smaller loss. And I've been going through that a bit. Early February was real rough with that for me, where it was really choppy up and down. And I mean, I guess I was sticking to stops for the most part, but it was there were a few that I let get away from me too, just because, again, my decision making was getting altered, where I didn't want to take the loss, and then I wind up with a little bit of a stubborn hold, and it's just a never ending psychological battle.
It's crazy that no matter where you are at in your career, it's still a challenge whenever you try to grow, right? Like every time you like the next step, it's like, okay, you hit level 1 where you're risking $100, and it took you a while to get to level 2, we're risking $200. But now whenever you're up here, the same challenge is still there. It's just times that multiple.
Yeah, just a little bigger.
Yeah, it's just a little bigger. Sure. And then, so what are you, any advice, like what do you focus on now that when you are growing, or when you're trying to increase right now? What are you really trying to, is there anything you're telling yourself? Is there anything you're trying to do? Is there anything you're focusing on when you're trading to get over that and get to that next level for yourself?
I think really just every trade is just trying to remind myself to stick to my process. Like I've gotten here because the process works. And when you get in trouble is when you get away from that and you do things uncharacteristic. So I think that's just kind of like the constant reminder I keep running through my head is like, this is the exact same trade it would be if I was in half the size. So, just focus on the chart. Don't look at the, like I've always hidden my unrealized profit loss. So I don't see that like that. And that's great to not have that in my face. I still kind of know in my head, like I'm a very much a risk first mentality now. I think the way I've handled risk has definitely changed over the years, because now I'm just so much more conscious of it, where before I even enter a trade, the first thing I look at is what would my stop loss be and how much size should I take so I don't lose more than, $5,000 or $10,000.
Yep.
And, and that's really the point I'm trying to like drive home to myself when I'm in these trades and uncomfortable is like, okay, has something actually really changed with this setup, or is it just me not liking the thought of possibly taking a bigger loss than I'm used to? So, and honestly, like I just have to gut it out. And if I can't, then I have to size back down and try again later.
Absolutely. And, you brought up something on how you're more focused now on how your risk changed, like how you're looking at risk. Mm-hmm. But I mean, are you saying that like in the past you weren't looking at like, where am I going to risk first? Because I feel like you were in the past.
So, well, yeah, I mean, I guess, and I know I have some old blog posts that like kind of talk about how that's what you're supposed to do, but it's one thing to say this is what you're supposed to do, and another thing to like kind of execute that mentality.
Gotcha.
I think when I slip into my worst trading is when I get into a trade thinking about how much I want to make. And that's kind of the first goal, you know?
Mm,
So, you know, if I'm buying a breakout and I'm like, oh, I want to make 50K on this trade, I might not be thinking first thing about like, okay, what's the risk level here? How many shares should I take? I'm more thinking about like, okay, I'm going to buy a shit ton of shares so that I make 50K easier. And then later in the process, be like, oh, wait a minute, what am I risking now? Ooh, that's too much.
yeah, I know. I've been there. Actually, I was there today. So it's like when you find yourself, it's so true, man. When you find yourself focusing on the first thing is what am I going to make?
Mm-hmm.
Those are usually the ones I'm wrong on. You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
weird.
that too. Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like, oh, what am I going to make here? And I think it's because I'm focused on trying to make money, right? Instead of rather than picking the best
Mhm.
opportunity with the best risk. So,
And it was one of the day. It was the day when Codex and APT collapsed. I think it
mhm.
was last Friday or the Friday before. And they had those huge panics. You know, APT went from like 40 to 20 or 15 or something like that. I know Codex got killed too. I went
Yes.
into the day with that wrong mentality. Like I was on a hot streak. I was thinking about like, oh man, I want to come in and like just crush these shorts now because I nailed them long. And but I was doing it in a way where I was also thinking, oh, but to make this money I want to, I would have to risk this much. And then that kind of just like paralyzed me where,
Mm.
you know, I had this like pressure I was putting on myself to go really big on these plays. And mentally I wasn't prepared to take that risk. I didn't want to take that risk. And so I just wound up kind of freezing. And I guess I took a couple shorts on each of them, but I was not in either of the shorts for more than like 2 minutes. Because, you know, the stock would have a little drop and then would uptick and I'd be like, oh shit, and cover it up. And yeah, so instead, because if I'd gone into that day with that like risk first mentality, okay, I'm going to put on my normal size or maybe even like double my normal size, you know, because they were
Yeah.
A+ setups. But if I go in with the right mentality, I'm still going to have a killer day on those drops. But because I go in and I'm putting this pressure on myself to do something ridiculous, I miss it all.
Was it more of, were you risking a bigger size than normal, even that whole month? Was it a whole new level, or was it more so, and I'm asking this question because, was it because you were doing so great you were thinking about profits that you didn't want to lose?
That was part of it too. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that was also part of it because I'd had a really hot week and I was kind of protecting myself a little mentally where I was like, I don't want to give any back.
Yeah.
It was actually the day before I'd done that a little bit where I was going after, I had a great morning. I think in the morning, I was up something absurd because I closed out the APT long for 160K and then had a win on, oh man, GNPX was that the one that went 2 to 7. I
I
had a win
know.
on a
This is
swing
so
short on
much.
that. So I was up like 200 on the day. And then by the end of the day, I was up 160 because I just kind of like paper cut myself here and there. So that kind of set the stage for the next day as well, where I was like, okay, I already give back some. I don't want to give back more.
Yeah, it's funny to me because I'm sitting here smiling like that's a normal number to me, but that's not normal to me.
It's not normal
That's
to me
great.
either, honestly.
That's
Like
great.
this has been it's just an absurd streak. Like
Yeah.
I can't believe how crazy the sector has been and the opportunities we've had. And you know, and I'm so like self-competitive. I sit here and I'm thinking like, oh, and I've messed up all these opportunities, but like I'm having the best start to a year by far that I've ever had.
Nice. Well, congrats too. I think what was
Thank
it? You were just crossed 10 million too, which is awesome, man.
But yeah,
Congratulations, dude.
thanks.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
The I'm curious. I'm sure you've been asked this probably individually, and I'm sure you've probably been asked this, you've been interviewed with Tim Sykes and all of that, but if you personally, let's say your little one, is that a boy or a girl?
Boy,
What's his name?
Aiden.
Aiden?
Yeah.
Well, if Aiden grows up and he's like, hey dad, I like this stuff. I like the stock market stuff. What would be like the first three things you teach him?
Oh man. Well, I think the first would have to be just risk management, really. That's I think there's a couple ways people kill off their accounts. One is just that catastrophic black swan trade that takes you out of the game, and then other than that, it's just maybe a slow bleed out where you're just over trading, letting emotions get the best of you, all that stuff. So, man, like as far as like where to start, like if it's like one day just like, hey, I want to jump into this, like, gosh, it's hard to narrow it down to three.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
well, obviously not just only three, but the first three.
first three, yeah.
Yeah, but just the first three that you would start. So you risk management. which makes sense.
Yeah, like learn how to cut losses, learn how to, like set a stop and stick to it. I mean, a big part would just have to be, a little, I'm starting small, for sure, starting small, because like I think every trader is different. I firmly believe every trader is different. I've seen so many traders who are successful who have their own unique different styles. There's no like one formula to make money in the market. Like there's a lot of different things that could work, and I think that personality type plays a big role into what you'll be good at. It's kind of like, does your style jive with your personality? So, and it takes time to figure that out. So like, yeah, you can go to different chat rooms, different gurus, learn all these different strategies, but you've got to then kind of like take the next step and be like, okay, what like clicks with me, and what do I just see and say, I'm totally uncomfortable with that. And then I think I'd teach them to just track everything, like more, yeah, setups and like new things you might want to learn, but own results.
Yeah.
Like just having it down on paper, being honest with yourself about where do you succeed, where do you fail.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think all of those are great tips, because I mean, what's interesting is you're not like saying, a lot of people they're always searching for that best thing, right? That best setup. And it's like, that's not really the focus. The focus that you're talking about is focusing on what you're good at, finding what you're good at, tracking all your trades, and then sticking to your risk management so you can stay in the game, because really that's what it's about. The longer you can stay in here, the more you can experience. So I appreciate you saying that.
Well, and then also just like, I think that an important early on message would be just to preach extreme patience, because it doesn't happen fast. For me, I started studying and I wasn't consistently profitable until 9 months later.
Yeah.
And
which is very fast for
I think I was kind of fortunate with the timing of, new promotions and awesome penny stocks being around, and some of these big promoters who could really pop stuff. Like that definitely kind of jump-started my account a bit. And that was one of the patterns I kind of focused in on early on in my career, because I was like, whoa, there's like, like I'm watching these things go 50% in 10 minutes. So like, yeah, I'm going to try to get a piece of that. So that was a nice little crutch to have to like help me along my way.
Would you say, compared to trading tickers, are you pretty much the same kind of trader from what you were in trading tickers in terms of what you traded and what you taught back then?
I think I'm very similar short seller to what I was back in trading tickers. Just a little more like, I think I've got like a couple trades in trading tickers that kind of make me cringe, where I'm like, okay, now I've got like 10,000 shares here and I'm willing to add up to 50,000 shares and I'm just going to add as it spikes. And it's like, oh no, like that was not smart. So I think the way I handle risk management has changed a bit, but it's still like the same setups. Like I'm going after first red days. I'm going after bounces. I'm looking for the big extended parabolic daily charts to try to short.
Yep.
I'm still buying breakouts. Like I love multi-day breakouts. Some of my biggest trades in the past 3 months have been multi-day breakouts. I've probably made more on the long side than the short side this year.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's cool, man. That's crazy. I never thought I'd hear you say that.
Like even though I think I'm getting better risk reward on them, honestly. Like because with the shorts, I'm being a little more like cautious about my entries, so I'm getting in later and therefore having a wider risk, and I can't get quite as much size. Whereas with the breakouts, it's the trigger is, hey, there's the multi-day breakout. Yep. The support I'm risking off of is what's the closest significant intraday support I see. So I think I'm just getting overall a better risk reward.
Are you on those multi-day breakouts? Because I used to. So I'm not long at all. Like I actually avoid it now, because one person told me, they're like, dude, why are you long? You suck at it. Like, just stop. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I stopped, and then I became profitable. Like there's just awesome. Eliminating that, man. And what's crazy is now I'm scared to even like dip over there, but I'm curious just for like people out there probably thinking the same thing. So I just want to make sure when you long those, though, since you're now thinking you're using fundamentals still with those, but some of those stocks have been shit. So I don't know. Like I'm just asking, are they fundamentals, or are you more so looking for a catalyst, or have to have?
It's almost no fundamentals at all. It's it really is just like, okay, we've got the crazy volume, we've got a volatile stock. A lot of times these ones that wind up being multi-day breakouts are ones that had people shorting them quite a bit because actually the fundamentals were so bad. So when you get that multi-day breakout, I like that it's a spot where now, okay, everyone who shorted this thing is underwater. More volume, the better. The smaller the share count, the better. So I do glance at some fundamentals. Like, I'll try to make sure there's nothing like horrifically dilutive.
Yeah.
And
But
again,
I guess
like
a
I said, the
catalyst
smaller the
is
share count, the better. So I definitely like to see, lower market cap breakouts.
And a
But
catalyst,
aside from that,
catalyst wouldn't be a big deal because I see those a lot. Like, because as a short seller, you're like, I mean, as a short seller, you see where all the shorts are. You're like, holy crap! Like, there's tons of people shorting this right now. I can tell. And so, are you more so focused on like the chart rather than like a catalyst needs to be needed for that kind of a setup?
Yeah, if there's a catalyst there, that's great. But I'm still way more focused on the chart.
Cool.
I guess it's been kind of nice with this sector lately with the Corona stocks because that's just been like a constant catalyst. A company doesn't even necessarily have to announce news. It's just like, okay, if there was really bad coronavirus numbers overnight, like that's probably going to make some stuff gap up.
So I'm curious. Let's pivot away from this for a second. I'm curious on. You probably get tons of messages, man. Or used to, right? Mm-hmm. Or I don't know if you have a block on Twitter.
I don't think it's quite as much as it used to be.
But what would you say is the most common like misbelief when it comes to trading and being successful at it?
Good question. I mean, I think the most common one I see is just that people think it's going to be easy and quick. Like that really seems to be like I get the questions I like hate getting the most.
Please
are the ones where people are saying like, oh, I'm gonna like, how about I take out a loan and start trading, and like stuff like that, where it's like, they just think like, oh, like that, I'll be profitable and pay my loan back and it'll be fine. So I think that's the biggest misbelief. Like it's as simple as like, I'll learn one pattern and then, okay, there we go, I'll be profitable. And you don't really understand all the psychological demons you've got to battle along the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hope those people aren't serious. I hope they're not serious. That's crazy. I get messages. The worst thing I hate, and I'm nowhere near like any of the people I interview, especially you, but like, it's crazy that I can only imagine what you get, but I get messages like when you get questions that you can Google, like simple questions, just mm-hmm. like, and you can kind of pick up like that they're kind of lazy, Yeah. That has to be like, that's frustrating. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, no, you're right though. It is frustrating. And
it is. I think that's the wrong mindset though, right? Like if you're in that lazy mindset, like, oh, just show me this so I can be successful, then I think trading, and here, give me your own opinion here, but I'm going to just share mine. I think trading's like, it's not never one thing. It's like, dude, it's tons of things. You know how many times I've had moments where I thought, oh, I got it. This is the moment, like, oh, this is my light bulb. No, this is my light bulb. No, this is my light bulb. So like, what about you? Like, what do you think about it in terms of trading? Like, is there like one moment? Is there a certain couple of moments that you had? Just curious.
I remember it just being lots of little moments, like when it started to like especially click for me because, it was like February or March 2011, I started studying. I get profitable in November, and then December I graduate college and move back home with my parents, and I go full time at the start of 2012. And I do remember those first few months of 2012, just like every day, just like having all these tiny little aha moments, like where I was starting to pick up things about like how level 2 works and, just like little nuances in the patterns or whatever. But yeah, it's not any one big thing. It really is just getting that screen time day after day, and just, little things are going to click along the way. It just takes time to get there.
Whenever you did move back home after college and you were like, I remember in your story, you were saying like, I have to make X to show that it was a full-time job a quarter. Remember, like you were given that.
So that deal with my parents, they were a little skeptical of the trading thing.
Of course.
Yeah. Because I just go through this nice long college degree, and I'm like, I don't want to use it. So yeah, the deal we kind of struck up was, okay, I have 3 months to make $10,000 because that would put me on pace for a $40,000 job, which, coming out of college, that wouldn't be terrible, Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll try to prove this is something that is a reasonable chance for me to make a living by making 10K in 3 months. And there was pressure from that for sure.
Yes. So when that happened, because a lot of people are in that time period now where maybe they're leaving a job or maybe they're trying to trade and they have some kind of pressure. How did you deal with that? Like, how did you, because you still found that success during that time period.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I think after like the first quarter, then you really start taking off, like right after that first 3 months.
Yeah, it sped up in April.
Yeah.
In April of that year, I think I had like a 10K win on a new promotion release. Like
Yeah.
one of those ones I was in for like 5 minutes. It was just like, whoa, like this
Yeah.
just got real.
I was like, yo, whoa.
Yeah, I remember that trade so well because I think our power was out that morning or the internet was out. So I made that trade from a Panera.
That's awesome. So how'd you deal with that? Like any advice you can give to people when it comes to having that kind of external pressure, because it's going to be there. So anything that you were able to do, because I'm sure you really wanted to be a trader, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and you were like, man, I got to make this work. How did you not fall into the habit of, I got to make this work, so I'm trading everything? You know what I'm saying?
I think so. In my specific situation, it was like, okay, and if at the end of that 3 months I'm not at the 10,000, what's the consequence? And the consequence was either I go out and get a real job or I need to go do my trading somewhere else. And so I think I was I wasn't so worried about will I make that 10K in time or not. I was more worried about what will I do if I don't. So just like kind of having a fallback plan, like how will I let myself stay in the game longer to keep trying? So like I was like strategizing, like, okay, I'm gonna have to find somewhere with cheap rent, and like what are night jobs I could work to like take some pressure off to pay the bills, and like maybe I could be a bartender, and just like kind of planning towards that side of it. So I don't remember like really letting it spill into my trading too much or feeling like, oh, I have to make a trade today, because I think I just felt like, it's not that I need to make money. I just need to give myself time.
Yeah. It seems like you just hearing your response kind of just shows me that you were going to do this until you got it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Like,
you were just like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do just in case. So that way I can still do this, work night shift. That's what it shows me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because I thought I saw how to do it. Like, because at that point I had gotten myself a bit profitable. So like November, I had that win that got me back to break even. And then I had the big win on the AMWI promotion that got me up 2K. And I think I ended the year up 4K. So things were starting to click. That was part of it. Like it wasn't that I wasn't in a spot where it was like, I still have no idea what's going on. How am I going to make money at this? It was like, I think I see an edge and I really want to give myself a chance to attack this edge and like make something of it.
And you were under PDT, obviously, right? And so, but you have multiple accounts, like
I have multiple accounts,
three accounts, right? 3?
Yeah, I had 3.
And so still the question, no matter what, is because the biggest challenge, I think, and at least for me, especially at the beginning, was limiting. You always hear, and I preach this too now, but like you always used to hear, and I say used to, you always hear the pick one setup, pick 2 setups, stick with it. But then there's that side that says that demon over here that says like, well, that setup only shows up every once in a while, or maybe it doesn't show up this week, So how did you deal? I mean, because especially you were dealing with that at some point in your career, right? Now you got more different strategies in your toolkit, so it's different. You have a little bit more ability to trade, at least almost maybe every day, maybe sometimes it's not. But back then it was harder. So how did you deal with that? From preventing yourself, or did you make mistakes a lot and you just were risking less on those? Like, how did you handle that?
Yeah. So a lot of what you're talking about is stuff I went through when I was going through that period when I struggled. So, I mean, I'll try to go more in depth here on like that period of time. So I started trading May 2011. Like, I studied for 3 months and then I jump in and I start trading. And I think my first 3 trades are losses. And then I turned into the guy who followed trade alerts. And that was kind of the only thing I was even making a little bit at. Like it was, and I was making a little at it because I wasn't waiting for the sell. I was just scalping it and just kind of flipping it quick. So I was trying to follow alerts. I was watching a lot of these incredible pump and umps with like, big wide eyes, but like no idea of how to attack them. Some of these classic ones where they would like go panic from 6 to 3, bounce to 450, stuff like that. And I'd just be on the sidelines trying to soak it all in and figure out what's going on. But once I started to get a little more bold, I was up about $200 or $300 by about July or so. Maybe it was August. And I started getting more bold where I was like, okay, I want to start trying like other things. I was in Sykes chat room, but I also was trying to get free trials of Investors Underground. I think I was in Bulls on Wall Street. I might've been in Foos's room. I was trying all these different services, learning all these different strategies. And I started trying to do it all because, I had 3 accounts. I had 9 day trades a week. I was watching, Muddy Waters and Citron Research release these short reports on companies, and they dropped 20% in minutes. So I see all these things that are making stocks move, and I'm trying to figure out how to get a piece of all of it. So I learned the lesson really early about how detrimental overtrading can be, because one day, some random pump I'm long overnight gaps down, and I get stuck in a liquid panic, and I lose my entire 300 profits in one trade. And then I'm watching a pump and dump. It's up from like 10 cents to $1.15. And I'm like, oh, well, it's a pump and dump. It's got to go down. So I start trying to short it, but I'm scared because I have no idea what I'm doing. So I short it and I cover for 2 cents a share loss. And I short it and I cover for 2 cents a share loss. And I just do this over and over and basically bleed myself out. So I was probably trying to trade like 8 or 10 different setups, all of them with like almost no idea of what I was doing. And so this is where my message of like, try to trade just 1 to 2 setups comes from, because like during this time, like I'm not taking bigger than $1,500 positions. I'm trading my money that's in the account. And yeah, I lose the entire $1,500, but that's not that much money. I'm also juggling a summer job at State Farm. I make $4,000 at State Farm that summer. So I'm still in the game. I can try again. And I walked away from that blow up, not saying like, what did I do wrong? I walked away from it saying like, okay, I've got all these ideas of why I just screwed that up so badly. And the first thing I got to do is just cut out 90% of this BS that I'm doing. So that's where, I was tracking my trades in a spreadsheet. I tracked every single trade, and I could look at my results and I could see like, what am I doing well at? What am I doing poorly at? And I could just tell from comfort. You just kind of have a feel of comfort when you're in a trade, or a feel of fear, just kind of depending on how familiar it is. I still do it where sometimes I'll enter a semi-unfamiliar setup and I'll just be super uneasy the whole time. So it really is just, for me, I learned that before I had the pressure of make $10,000 in 3 months. I learned what overtrading can do to you. So I'd already internalized that lesson, and I was able to go, and part of my road back was going 2 days at a time, 3 days at a time without making a trade. Because I had said to myself, I'm only buying if there's a big promotion from one of these 3 major promoters, or I'm only buying if I see some OTC pump multi-day breakout, because I feel like I know that pattern and how to handle it now. And those days where I didn't make trades, they were hard, because I'd still pop into the chat room and I'd see people being like, boom, nailed this for $1,000.
Oh my God.
Like just all that annoying chat rooms crap you see all the time, where everyone's celebrating, nobody ever loses. And it's like, I should be a piece of that. So I learned to tune it all out before the stakes got higher. And I think that was really helpful for me.
Good for you, man. That's awesome, because that's hard to learn. Like it's not hard to learn. It's hard to, like, you learned it, accepted it, and then became disciplined on it really quickly, which is, I think, a testament to why you grew quicker. Like, of course, the market was different, but I think at the end of the day, your risk management was definitely there, and you learned from your mistakes quick.
I think one question I get a lot is like, why am I like successful compared to other people when like 90% of people fail at this game? And I think a big part of it is that I do have an ability to be like really honest with myself about like if I'm doing something wrong, and place blame on myself. You do see a lot of, like, oh, well, I lost because shorts are manipulating this. It was a bear raid. Oh, it's just like the promoters are supporting it, so I got squeezed on my short, and it deflects blame elsewhere. And I think I've just been good at like staying honest with myself and being like, you know what, I pushed the buttons. This is my fault. I've got to figure out how to fix it.
Absolutely. Taking responsibility. And I think you brought up something before we wrap up here. You brought up something about, you always see, because this was a huge challenge for me, man. Huge. Like whenever I would compare myself to others back, I used to do that all the time. And so is that why you kind of, because I've always known you as someone who's very to himself, but very open to help. And like, but like you're also incognito at the same time. If that makes sense. Is that because you want to like put those blinders on and just stay focused for yourself? Because you also kind of ran into that challenge.
Yeah. Even when I was having that initial success, when I'm growing my account, succeeding at home, realizing, okay, I'm going to make a career out of this, I still would look at other people who had traded the same tickers as me and see, oh, they made more, they had a bigger day. And that would kind of steal some of my happiness. And I was like, this is dumb. Like, why am I being competitive about this instead of happy for them? So then there's that element of it. And I still fall into that with traders sometimes where like, I'll make a huge trade and I'll be like, oh, well, so-and-so probably made more. Like, I won't even know. I'll just kind of assume like that someone had more size than me and be a little bummed about it. And that's just who I am and me being competitive. And I've kind of learned like, it'll bother me a little bit, but like, it won't harm me or affect me in a negative way in the market. I do keep more to myself in terms of like looking at watch lists. I used to be all about looking at watch lists of the gurus every night, and especially on the tickers I was in because I wanted to know what they thought. And after a while, that you notice that affects your opinion and that affects how you approach the setup the next day. And there just came a time where I said, you know what, I need to stop worrying about what they think and worry about what I think. And again, like I'd almost rather learn from my own mistakes if that's what it comes to than go into the day with a totally different bias than I normally would have. Because I was doing that. Like I'd be in something where I'd be shorted overnight. I'd be thinking, oh, this is going to gap down and flush. And then like I'd read on someone's scan, like, oh, looking for this to have like a nice rebound, like up into whatever level. And then I'd be spooked all night thinking like, oh no, this isn't going to gap down. This might gap up and rebound. And then, that would affect my process the next morning. So yeah, I need those blinders. I need them to keep me sane and just, keep myself in my own head.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you sharing that and bringing that up because it's something that I've dealt with. And it's something that like, even with my friends, like I have, over time you start to build good friends with traders. I'm sure you have too. Mm-hmm. And you try to support each other. But there's one of my buddies who I talk to regularly, but I told him recently that, hey man, just during the market times, just let's not talk until after the close, maybe. Nice. Because he knows I'm not being rude to him. He knows we're good buds, but I don't know if it's a weakness of mine. But like for me, I cannot compare. It's like comparing each other constantly. And I feel like, hey, here's my chart. Here's what I did. How'd you do? It's good. It helped at first, but then it became like a negative. Not because we're negative with each other. We always supported each other, but because maybe it's just me. I'm just so competitive that I'm like, damn it, I should have been able to do that,
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, Tim, I don't want to keep you too long because I've already had you forever. So I tell you what, man, what is the best way for anyone to either, if they want to reach out to you or find your information or anything like that, go ahead and plug that right now.
Yeah, so the most up-to-date stuff you'll probably see from me is my YouTube channel. I actually don't even know what my YouTube channel is. If you just search Tim Grittani on YouTube, you'll find me. But I and I probably haven't put a video up on there in a year, but I've got some more up-to-date stuff like from the last year or so where I do talk some about fundamentals and how my approach has changed since trading tickers. And then tradetheticker.blogspot.com. I've got some old stuff on there, lots of FAQs. And if you have to reach me, tradetheticker@gmail.com. But I've been really bad about emails for a couple of years now. So I'll read it at least, but I mean, please don't be insulted if I don't reply because I'm just not good at it.
No problem, man. Look, I appreciate you coming in today, giving me some time to talk with you. I really appreciate that, man. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there who get a lot of value out of this. So thanks again, man, for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.